Well, it's Roland here. Who else could it be? And you join me today in the lovely village of Shrewton, where we're going to explore the village trail, which starts here, right here, at the Blind House, an 18th century lockup. So we're going to take a look at the village trail and see what we find. So I'm standing on the bridge over the River Till looking at the Blind House. This bridge has been widened to allow for modern traffic, and the poor old Blind House had to be rebuilt twice, been in a dangerous position on a junction. So we're starting our walk at the mini roundabout, and the Blind House is just hidden away in the trees there. We're going to move along Salisbury Road following the River Till. And at this point, we come across a junction to the Salisbury Road. There's the Baptist Church. We're just going to go behind the Baptist Church along this footpath until we can come to a bridge, cross the bridge, and then there's a footpath across the fields here. This is called Berry Field. We shall see some metal detectorists working away in there. Through this driveway and into St Mary's Church grounds here. And then what I did then is I went along out onto Maddington here, and that brings us back to the main road, the A360. We then crossed the road, and this is the point where you can see the old railway tracks being used as curbs. We then go into Tanner's Lane, and as we move up Tanner's Lane, we eventually reach the Butts, and just along behind there is a footpath which we can follow behind these houses right out here onto the hollow, and then we take the footpath that continues in this line of trees. It's kind of come back on ourselves, double back on ourselves behind the recreation ground, and then back out onto the hollow here, and then we then take the High Street all the way down the High Street back to where we started, and that's our route in Shrewton. So our trail takes us firstly onto Salisbury Road, and we'll go along this road for a little while, and we'll cross over and go across some fields eventually. And we'll take a look at all the various points along the way that we've been asked to look at. And again, lovely cottages you'll find as we go around as well. Some interesting history surrounds this place, I'm sure. And the river's running along under the trees over there. So the bridge was called Maddington Bridge, and Maddington Manor is in the area over to my right. This is more modern development on the left, Parsons Green. And just cross the road so you can get a better view of the properties opposite. And you say the river is running down nicely here, River Till. And there's a village not too many miles away called Till's Head, which obviously gets its name from the starting point of the River Till. Where I'm standing now, this side of the road, there actually used to be houses and shops which were all demolished to make room for the widening of this road to the A360 that goes to Salisbury. So the main Devizes to Salisbury Road. nice steep hill on the left hand side. It just slopes away down to grounds behind me there. Going to see if we get a view of the manor in a moment. So the area we just walked from, that has been subject to many floods actually, and back in 1841 there was a pretty terrible flood down there, which is marked. We'll find that perhaps later on. I just managed to find it next to the litter bin. On January the 16th, 1841, a huge flood occurred. There'd been lots of rain, snow and thaw, which had caused the valley to be completely inundated with a huge amount of water from Salisbury Plain. It ran down through the Till Valley, and Shrewton was 7 to 8 feet above the river bank. It devastated the town. Many buildings were swept away, 3 people lost their lives, and many were homeless. It's a wonder more didn't lose their lives. However, those homeless ones had to be rehoused, so around the area 5 sets of terrace cottages were built. 3 of those remain, one in Shrewton, the other in Orcheston. You'll be able to see that in another video, and also one at Tilshead. So devastation occurred, a terrible day and night that people had to endure in Shrewton, which is still remembered to this day. Let's carry on up the road. So here by the River Till is the Baptist Chapel. That closed in 1997. So we now have to go down the side of the chapel, along the path, along the river, and follow this. Bit of information about the chapel here, and also about the Royal Oak, which is what those cottages became by the looks of it. Walk down here. The water's looking crystal clear. And apparently it does teem with aquatic life, and also the life that likes to make use of the water source. We just get a glimpse of Baddington Manor through the trees. So while we've got away from the noise and you can get this view of the countryside here, I'll tell you a little bit about Shrewton. It seems likely that people lived here even when Stonehenge was being used, which is about 4 miles eastwards of here. Now there are many round burial mounds as well around Shrewton, showing that Bronze Age people were very active in this area. The Saxons were here as well. Saxon graves have been found, and artifacts of course that go with that. The village originally was called Winterbourne, but because there are a lot of Winterbournes, it had an additional tag on the end of it which was Winterbourne Shrewton, and then that became Shrewton, and the Winterbourne bit was completely dropped. It's nice that somebody's taken the time to put flower beds around. To see what wildlife we can spot along the way. It almost looks like you're walking into someone's gardens here, doesn't it? But here's a footpath which we're going to follow. So let's see where we go now on our plan. So we just come to the end of what we call Lower Backway, and now we're going to go across this bridge. Very Very nicely situated properties, aren't they? So we have footpaths and a restricted byway. Which means no motor cars or motorcycles. And the river widens out here. Pools nicely, doesn't it? That's the way we've just come from. So let's carry on following the footpath round. This beautiful location and such a lovely day for a walk. The end of April 2025 and it's absolutely beautiful. Could easily be summer with weather like this. Now we come to another sign. I think this is the style we need to go through. Gate. We've just crossed what is called Burton Bridge, and it shows that there could have been a mill here in 1674. Let's find out more as we go along. This field was called Bury Field, B-U-R-Y, and there are signs that it may have once been a human settlement, but not within living memory. There are some humps and bumps you can see in the field, both sides of this pathway that's been created. Local football tournaments have been held here, in the field to the left. And records held at the school show that the event held on Easter Monday and as many as 26 teams taking part, with Shrewton football team known as the Black and Whites. And Shrewton now play on the recreation ground. They're quite a well-known football club in the local area and beyond, in fact. So we have to follow this track to those were converted farm buildings, which are 17th century, and they were converted from stables, a smithy and a coach house to dwellings in 1979. Good to see them being put to use rather than demolished. So we're looking for another style in a moment, another footpath. So let's get up there and see what we can find. Got a couple of metal detectorists working away in the field. Sort of capture that. I just thought he was going for a walk first of all, but I can see the swinging of the detectors. So they're trying to find anything that might be left over from those ancient people that once lived on this land. So let's go through the gateway. Of grand doors there, aren't there? and I can see the church, so this must be the pathway through the church. Some nice cottages still along the road further down though. Just see those. Let's go into the churchyard. And every time I want to film there's always noise. We've got a mower going from the sounds of it. Let's take a look around. It's the back of the church. This was closed as a place of worship in 1976. Let's find our way around. So originally a 13th century building, but it was largely rebuilt in the 17th century. It's quite likely an earlier place of worship existed here. I believe that to be the old vicarage, which is a private house. So let's continue with our walk, following the footpath we've been told to take. I have to go past Maddington Church Room. It is the old vicarage on my right, or rectory if you like to call them that. But it's named Old Vicarage on the guide. And for proof, the old vicarage sign. So we're going to reach the main road, the A360, the road where we started our journey from. Just take a look at some of the buildings as we get to the end of the road before we follow the rest of the path. So they like to call this area under its old name of Maddington. Still got the religious connection with Priory Close and Abbey Close, newer areas, but have been named according to the religious nature of this area. And here we have Shrewton Sports and Social Club. And the River Till is alongside the road. Cross over the road into Tanner's Lane, but notice the unusual curbing here and on the other side of the road. This is made from basically tram rail. It used to be a former light railway to Rollston Camp, so it gives a nice solid curb edge. And we'll just cross it over when we can. One last look at the railway track that has been repurposed. So we're going to go into Tanner's Lane now. School opened in 2010, so quite a new building relative to the age of the other properties in Shrewton. We'll be walking along the road you can see over there in a moment. That's the way back to the Blind House. there's quite a mixture of ages of property here. A lot of newer ones, looks like 50s and 60s, have been built. Cope with the expansion of the population. And there's quite a few thatched properties to discover here. Some of them are behind walls and trees, so we can't get a close look, but you can see a thatched roof up there. And whilst thatch looks very nice, it's very expensive to maintain. Every 10 years or so you need to renew it, which will be quite expensive. So there's something to be said for a tiled roof, which will last many times longer, if not hundreds of years, depending on the quality of the installation to start with. Another thatched cottage coming up. Now we'll make our way up to a little turning on the left. That's got a bit of history, which we'll talk about when we get there. So the Butts is so named because the Butts was where there were rifle ranges. So this has been built on land that was a rifle range originally, but actually became a transport yard for a long time before being developed. Also interestingly, behind the Butts was a site of a crash of a Spitfire in 1941. Leaving the Butts behind, we need to walk on this footpath here, which is called the Hollow. Now it's called the Hollow from an Old English word, probably sounds something similar, Hlaew, H-L-A-E-W, which is an Old English word for graveyard. Now a few years ago, a 6th century Anglo-Saxon grave was excavated. So there are probably other graves around in the area as well, in this area. So let's see where this goes. We've got some sheep and lambs here. So we can just skirt the back of these houses. So I'll get back to you when we get a slight change of scenery from this fencing that's running on my right and this hollow that we're walking in. So we're coming to the end of the hollow by the looks of it. Another thatch cottage. And there should be another footpath. And here it is. Nice view up and down this lane. More modern properties have been built along here, but let's go this direction. It should take us into some woodland. So this path is taking us behind the recreation ground through woodland. That's the football ground that Shrewton United play on. And you see a glimpse of it through the trees. But let's make our way through here. It's nice to be able to have a bit of a woodland walk, even be at a small wooded area here in Shrewton. The actual recreation ground falls into Orcaston parish, and the football club are not allowed to charge admission fees, so it's very much on a voluntary basis, and the money they can make from selling food on match days, programme, generous donations, or indeed at the bar. So quite crunchy underfoot, all the dead leaves. The spring growth, can have lots of nettles growing here, and it doesn't look as though this has been too well used in recent times. So the nettles are going to get quite knee high soon, but we'll march through them. Good job I'm not wearing shorts. So if you do come this way, be wary that it's only going to get worse, not better, unless someone comes along and cuts them down, or they're trodden down by a lot of people, and I can't see that happening. So at the back of the clubhouse now. Let's carry on. Aha, now there is a path down here. We can take this path now. We'll wait till it officially meets up and we turn right, so we're not going any further on in this direction. Oh, more brambles. So we're going to make our way out of the football ground. In fact, it asked us to go behind the play area, so we'll do that. We'll take this footpath here, take advantage of being in the trees for a little bit longer. I'm presuming this is the one they mean, because it will take us behind the play area. We'll get there soon. So we've made our way from the playground area onto the entrance stroke exit to the recreation ground. So we've got Mill House, Mill Lane opposite. These serve as reminders that once upon a time there was a windmill stood at the top of the lane running up the hill, which they call the Hollow. And there should be a stone in Mill House to remember about the flood, so if I find it, we will. So that indeed is Mill House. And I can't see the stone coming to sight. I've got the sun in my eyes a little bit. There's a stream down here. Oh, the river actually, running down through the River Till. The junction on the left, and this is Carrier's Court, which was originally the site of a brewery became known as Carrier's Arms, and the property changed hands possibly twice before being purchased by Henry Hall in 1927, and it became the Shrewton Steam Laundry, and that ended in 2011, now housing. And then we have the old bakery as well next to it. And the plume of feathers. That's been a public house since 1910. Now, there first existed a church on this site in Saxon times, which was then replaced by a more elaborate one in Norman times, but this church has been largely rebuilt in the 19th century, 1853 in actual fact. The 3 bells in the church in 1553 were recast in 1619 by John Wallis of Salisbury. Then a 4th was added by Clement Tossier in 1717, and a 5th by Abel Ruddall in 1757, and a 6th by Mears and Steinbach in 1928. And the bells are still here to this very day. And this is a pretty steep cemetery. You can see that from the steps leading to the top over there. So I've climbed to the top of the steps for you to give you a better view, an aerial view almost, of the church down the bottom of this hill. Let's get back to the main road. This is the old Methodist chapel. It was built in the spring of 1861 on land with a 99-year lease. The cost of the lease was 5 old shillings to be paid each year, or a copy of the Holy Scripture. So, River Till running in front of these properties. A bit more view of the church down there. And we don't have a pavement along here. Again, some lovely thatched properties along the way, made of cob, some of them, which is a mixture of chalk, clay and rubble, or brick and flint. You see that in the brickwork there, can't you? have a footpath, butcher and a hair salon. More new houses in that direction. They've managed to stop it flooding, that's a good thing, because these houses are at risk otherwise. Got their own bridge. It's Kingfisher House. And that looks old. So, looks like another chapel there. Got a clock on the side too. Find out more if we can. And this is the other side of the school. We walked past it on the lane, Tanner's Lane that way. And this is the original school building here. Old School Mews it's now called. That opened on the 5th of April 1869. And that's the old schoolhouse. There was a time when schoolmasters used to have a house provided, rather like a vicar had his rectory or vicarage. I suppose that's all dependent upon rank. We have a doctor's surgery there. We're getting close to the starting point actually, not too far to go. We have a shop coming up as well, which I'll probably go and grab myself a drink. So let's go and do that before anything else. So leaving the shop behind, I'm now back at the starting point, the lock-up or blind house. And I've got myself a drink, so I'm going to enjoy that before getting back to the car. Thanks for watching Roland's Travels. I hope you've enjoyed this walk around Shrewton. Please give the video a thumbs up, become a subscriber if you're not already, and leave me a comment. Thank you.